Good evening and welcome to Lincoln City Library's culminating event for the 2025 One Book, One Lincoln program. My name is Ryan Weber, Library Director, and we're absolutely thrilled to present a conversation with Dr. Nguye Phan Que Mai, who has traveled all the way from Kyrgyzstan to discuss this year's winning title, Dust Child. But first, it's my pleasure to introduce the great mayor of our great city, Mayor Lyrian Gaylor Baird.
Thank you, Ryan. Good evening, everyone. It is so lovely to be here on this incredibly special evening with all of you. Special thanks to the High for hosting us tonight. Go Lynx. We are a community that loves our traditions. Whether we're releasing red balloons after the first Husker touchdown, although I must note it was black this past weekend, whether we are strolling through local artists' shows during First Friday, or planting trees on Arbor Day, we take pride in coming together in ways that enrich and strengthen the fabric of our community. Over the past 24 years, One Book, One Lincoln has become a cherished tradition. Through One Book, One Lincoln, we read together and experience together all that entails. We laugh, we cry, and we explore what it means to be human together. Building a tradition like this takes the efforts of so many. I want to thank our entire team at the Lincoln City Libraries, particularly our fearless director, Ryan Weber, and our One Book, One Lincoln program facilitator, Jennifer Jackson, as well as the Foundation for City Libraries, who had made this program tonight possible. Alongside Jennifer, Ryan, and our library staff and foundation, we have a team of community volunteers whose passion for reading inspires and deepens our own. And this year, no fewer than 19 of those community members served on our One Book, One Lincoln selection committee, collectively and generously giving thousands of hours to read books nominated for this One Book, One Lincoln honor. If you are a member of our selection committee, would you please stand so we can thank you? Now, I know some of you drove across town to be here tonight, and maybe some of you even came from outside of Lincoln, and we really appreciate your presence and your dedication, but you've got nothing on our distinguished guest this evening, who traveled all the way from Kyrgyzstan to be with us tonight. We are deeply honored that author Nguye Phan Que Mai is here tonight. Her novel, Dust Child, is our 2025 One Book, One Lincoln selection, and for good reason. Dust Child captivates us with heart-piercing truths, some revealed, some buried. Nguyen's well-researched historical tale illuminates the enduring trauma of war, acknowledging the human costs on all sides. Dust Child is a story of suffering and strength, sexism and survival. It asks us to contemplate what it takes to be liberated from the pain of the past, and it paints a starlit picture of how those we've lost can live on, shining a guiding light in our darkness. Tonight, we look forward to basking in the light of our distinguished guest and to more captivation, contemplation, and conversation. We do so thanks to all of you and to our dedicated team at the Lincoln City Libraries and the Foundation for City Libraries, and especially to the woman behind the pages of our 2025 One Book, One Lincoln selection, author Nguye Phan Que Mai, whom I want to thank again so much for traveling such a long road to be with us tonight in Lincoln, Nebraska. Thank you all for being here tonight, and enjoy this incredibly special evening.
Thank you, Mayor Gaylor Baird. Thank you for loving our libraries and for ensuring that we have the resources to do the great things that we provide for all of our community. Tonight's event is sponsored in part by the Foundation for Lincoln City Libraries. We're grateful for their help to make this happen. We're also thankful for the help of our friends at the Asian Community Cultural Center, who have done so much to help welcome Dr. Nguye to Lincoln by way of their friends and stakeholders at a special reception held last night. That was so lovely. A big thanks to Lincoln High School for use of their beautiful auditorium, which was also the scene for a special session today with Dr. Nguye and students. I also want to recognize and thank those who played a part in this year's event. As the mayor mentioned, we have 19 volunteer community members, 1 staff librarian, who each read 20-plus books over the course of 2 months. And I might be underestimating a little bit. Led by committee chair Alyssa Deal, the group had the conversations and deliberations that led to a solid top 10 set of titles and a final top 3, consisting this year of The Light Pirate by Lily Brooks Dalton, James by Percival Everett, and Dust Child by Dr. Nguye Phan Que Mai. This program has been built with the help of so many community members over the years, and I'm curious, do we have any former selection team members from past years here? Can you stand up? All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you also to our library staff who worked so hard to make all the pieces fit and took all the steps to ensure details big and small were executed, like having enough books on hand for one, or planning special programming, or by keeping residents in the know on exactly what was happening in the course of the last several months. We couldn't do this without an enthusiastic and caring staff. If you're a staff person or a library volunteer, could you please stand? I know there are some here. Yeah, all right. And we're also grateful for the direction, advocacy, and support provided by our library board. I know there are some library board members in the audience. Could you stand? Thank you. And finally, this program couldn't be possible without you. Library patrons and community members who value reading, literacy, literature, sharing, and discussing great books. That's what this is all about, and building community. Thank you for your appreciation of libraries and for recognizing the value and impact that Lincoln City Libraries brings to our community. Before we begin, I want to let you know that after our conversation, we'll have about 10 minutes for a Q&A with Dr. Nguye. And at that point in the program, we'll have volunteers ready to come to you with a microphone for your questions, so we hope you have a good question ready to go at that point. And then following the program, you'll be able to purchase books from local bookseller Francie and Finch and have your book signed by Dr. Nguye in the front hallway. It is now my pleasure to introduce our facilitator for the evening, Jennifer Jackson. Let's give Jen. Jen is a librarian based at Bennett Martin Library and is the coordinator for One Book, One Lincoln. Prior to coming to Lincoln City Library, she enjoyed a 20-plus year career at a large chain bookstore, which allowed her to share her love of books and reading with many. This also provided her the opportunity to work with authors from Nebraska as well as other areas of the U.S. And now, it is my honor to introduce author Dr. Nguye Phan Que Mai. Born and raised in Vietnam, Que Mai is the author of 13 books in Vietnamese and English, most recently the global best-selling novels The Mountains Sing and Dust Child. Her writing has been translated into more than 25 languages and has received the Penn Oakland Josephine Miles Literary Award, the International Book Award, the Book Browse Best Debut Award, the Lannan Literary Fellowship in Fiction, as well as runner-up for the Dayton Literary Peace Prize. And through her writing, Que Mai advocates for peace, human rights, and equality. She has a PhD in creative writing from the UK's Lancaster University. She was named by Forbes Vietnam as one of 20 inspiring women of 2021, and recently by the Research House of Asia as one of the top 10 female novelists shaping the literary scene in Southeast Asia. She is also the author of this year's winning One Book, One Lincoln title, Dust Child. Please help me welcome Nguye Mai.
Can you tell us a little bit about your writing journey? Did you always write as a child or later in life?
First of all, welcome everyone. How are you today? I have traveled a long way to find a home here in Lincoln. I have felt so welcome by your kindness and your compassion. And talking about my journey as a writer, I grew up in a small village in Vietnam. And you know, we didn't have much. My parents went bankrupt and lost everything. The only thing we had left in our house were books. Books that saved me. Because I was so ashamed of being poor, I had to sell things on the street. I was a street seller. And I was so ashamed. But when I went home, I just grabbed a book and I climbed up on a mango tree, on a branch, and I escaped. I felt so rich. Because with a book, I had another life. I could travel to another country. I could, do dangerous things, risky things, be disobedient. And I had great times with my books. And I wanted to be a writer at that time.
Since you were little.
But my brothers told me, we don't have enough to eat. What do you want to do being a writer? Study something useful and help parents. So do you know what my bachelor degree was in? Business. I studied business and I became one of the very first investor in the Vietnamese stock market. But later, when I I felt something was missing. I had a great professional career. I was working in marketing, in insurance, selling insurance. And then, I felt something was missing. And then, I met my husband and got married, and I was living in Bangladesh. And then I got a job in a library. And I found my passion again. I felt alive among books. I saw myself again. And in that job, I ordered all the banned books. Books of writers who were banned in Vietnam. I wanted to read them because I didn't have a chance. And then my dream of being a writer became alive again. And then fortunately, our next posting was back in Vietnam. So then every day, and I worked for an NGO in development communications. So I designed communication strategies to help fight against human trafficking and child labor. And on the way to work every day, I rode a motorbike. Have you been on a motorbike before? Raise your hand. It's liberating, right? I felt liberated, and like riding a motorbike in Vietnam is something else because you become a part of life. There are street sellers around you. You can smell the food. You can hear the sing-songs of the street sellers. So I started to write poetry on a motorbike, something I don't advise you to do. Because I got caught by the police quite a few times and got fined. But my first ever published poems were written on a motorbike about the street sellers of Hanoi, about the garbage collectors. I wanted to write about people, whom I felt were the heroes of our city. The heroes of our city, were the people who worked days and nights, and Hanoi is a city that never sleeps. So, 2 or 3 o'clock, you go out, you see people selling things, and, the night markets are open, and these are the women who come from the countryside of Vietnam, who go to the city and who earn money to send their kids to school. And they are my heroes, so I wrote about them. And then I love poetry so much, so I volunteered to translate Vietnamese poetry because I wanted international readers to know Vietnam as a country with more than 4,000 years of history and culture. And then I thought, okay, I have translated a lot of poetry, but not many people buy poetry books. So I thought, okay, I should translate a novel. And then I was looking for a novel to translate until one day I told myself, why don't I write this novel myself? Yeah. And that began a crazy journey of writing in English, which, you know.
Yes, well, you spent 7 years researching for Dust Child during your PhD. Can you tell us a little bit about that process, or where your inspiration came from for Dust Child?
So actually, I also, before I started Dust Child, I also worked as a journalist in Vietnam. So when I grew up, you know, in Bạc Liêu, I saw Amerasian children around me who couldn't go to school, and they were bullied. And you know, when I grew up, I felt so guilty because I didn't speak up for them. I had this guilt inside of me that I didn't do enough. And so I always wondered, you know, like how they had become, whether they found their parents. So then years later, when I was working as a journalist, I interviewed American veterans who were coming back to Vietnam to look for the women they once abandoned to be able to find their children. So I wrote a newspaper article about the stories of some of them, with the hope that some of them would be able to find, you know, their loved ones. And I asked them to please send me the pictures that they had with the women, so you can see, you know, pictures of young men and the young women. And these American soldiers came to Vietnam when they were 18 or 19, young boys. And they had, you know, relationships with these women. And because, you know, they were young and afraid, so when these women became pregnant, they were, you know, scared, so they didn't want to accept their responsibilities. But when they became older, they felt really guilty, so they had been coming back for years, and their stories were, you know, were in the national and international media as well. So I thought I had no chance. But I thought, okay, I had to make the story a bit unique, so I asked one of them, please, can you write a letter to the woman whom you walked away from when she was pregnant, and tell her why you walked away from her and why you have been spending your life saving to try and look for her. So he wrote a very emotional letter, which made me cry a lot when I translated it, and I published it here as part of the article. And when it was printed, this was on the national newspaper of Vietnam, Tuổi Trẻ, and I had my email address on it, and I said, you know, if you have any information about this case, could you please contact me? I got so many emails without any concrete lead until 3 weeks later, I received an email from someone who said, Que Mai, I've never sent an email before in my life. But here I am at an internet cafe asking someone to write this for me. This is my phone number. Please call me. I might know someone who might know someone who might know one of the veterans in your essay. So, you know, I was living in Brussels at that time, and she didn't have internet or anything, so I called on a fixed line, and I thought, please tell me right away you are the one. Can you guess how long it took me to kind of get an answer? 15 minutes. She asked me so many questions about myself, like what I do and what sort of things I write about and everything. And then we talked about life and everything. And before, she took a deep breath and she said, Que Mai, I haven't told a single soul during the last 46 years. I have a secret. I had a child with an American soldier. And when that soldier walked away from me, I had no choice to give birth and gave my daughter to an orphanage. I haven't found my daughter. And when I read, and when someone told me about this essay, I had a look, and it is me in the picture. She was this beautiful woman, young, from the countryside, who worked in a bar. And she said she was married at that time with husband and children. They did not know. They did not know that night after night she cried, thinking about her daughter, not knowing whether the daughter was dead or alive. And she said, please.
She trusted you with her secret.
Yes.
Wow.
And then she said she wanted to be she wanted to speak with her former boyfriend because she wanted his help, in finding the child. And she didn't know anything about DNA or doing DNA tests. So I connected them, and they met together after 46 years. 46 years, and it's a miracle. So both of them have done DNA tests, and they have gone on the social media, but they haven't found the child. So this is the reality. Most of the cases, the parents or the children haven't found each other, and this is the reality that we are talking about in this book. But this article also helped one Amerasian, unite with his father after more than 50 years. So miracles happen in life, and it is a miracle that I'm here. Thank you.
Mai, is there anything that you learned about yourself during your reading journey?
I learned so much. I think, writing for me is a process of learning, because I learn through research. And, I think a writer, when we write, we have to reveal our values, our beliefs. So I discovered those values and those beliefs. And I also discovered the many wrong information, or a lot of wrong information that I got, because I grew up in Vietnam. I only left Vietnam for a scholarship when I was 19 years old. So I grew up, being taught that, American soldiers were killing machines. So my first trip to the US I went to Washington, D.C. to visit a friend. And my husband took me to the Vietnam War Memorial. And I refused to go in. I stood outside, and because I was born into the war. I have family members who died in the war. So I was very angry, and I thought, I told my husband, I don't want to go in there and honor people who contributed how small to the devastation in Vietnam, to more than 2 million deaths. But then, after half an hour, my husband went out and he took my hand. He said, come in, because if you don't, you are going to regret it. And I came in, and the first thing I thought was, there's not a long enough war to bear the name of the 2 million deaths, in Vietnam, in Cambodia, and Laos. But then I saw the letters at the foot of the wall. I picked up those letters of children, of veterans who were writing to their fathers. And I remember I read a letter of a young man who said, Father, today is my daughter's birthday. I wish you were here to blow the candle with her. This was really the first time for me to witness the humanity from the American soldiers' side. It changed me. I cried so much. So after that, you know what I did? I came back to Vietnam. I translated literature by American veterans. I published them. I took as a volunteer, I traveled with American veterans to former battlefields. I translated for them. I facilitated poetry readings. So former enemies came together, read poetry and hugged each other and cried. And I think that was some of the most powerful things that I witnessed. And I realized the truth in the poetry of poet Nguye, a Vietnamese veteran who wrote, nói cho cùng trong mỗi cuộc chiến tranh, phe nào thắng thì nhân dân đều bại. In the end of each and every war, whoever wins, the people always lose. American people lost so much. Vietnamese people lost so much. So many nations were involved in our terrible wars. And, I just felt so sorry. And I remember, when I was a child growing up in this small village in North Vietnam, I look at the devastations around me and the people who had lost their arms or legs or their family members. And I told myself as a little girl, the human race would not be so stupid as to wage another war. Just look at this. And as a child, I really believed that we would not have another war because I was horrified. But it seems that we don't learn. We just go on and wage another war. And that's really a sad reality. That's why I wanted to write my books to call for peace and for humans to love humans more. We don't just kill each other on the battlefield. We kill nature. Like Agent Orange that was sprayed onto Vietnam. Children are still being born deformed. Forests are still destroyed, and there are still bombs buried under the earth in Vietnam that still kill people, and that is so sad. And generations of Vietnamese and Americans are still suffering from PTSD and trauma.
The trauma lasts a long time, generations, doesn't it? You talked about the character in your book, or maybe you didn't mention him, Dan, the white soldier who had a relationship with the Vietnam vet. You bring so much humanity to that character, but your other characters as well. I've heard you talk about being a poet and also being a businesswoman, and I heard you describe the sisters in your book, one of them as a poet and one of them as more businessy. So I'm wondering if the sisters are two parts of you. Do you relate to them in any special way beyond that?
Thank you. I really, in researching for this book, I read everything that had been written about mothers of Amerasians, and I found out that normally they're not given space to tell their stories, and also in Hollywood movies about Vietnam, bar girls appear as sexual objects, or they are normally stupid or naive and opportunistic. So I wanted to portray the human capacity, their full humanity. And I saw so much of myself in Quỳnh and Trang, the two sisters, because I grew up farming as well. And I worked on the rice field, and it was hard. But there was a lot of joy in, and making seasons alive around you, how green the rice plants are and how gold they become when they grow older. And, you need to eat the freshly harvested rice. It smells, amazing. And, so there's a lot of joy being a farmer. So I wanted to bring that into the book. But also because my family went bankrupt, we lost everything. So I fictionalized that situation somewhat into the book. So in the book, the two sisters, they lost their house to the debtors, so they have to work to help their parents, repay the debt. So as a child, I also had to do a lot of jobs to help my parents repay the debt.
So there's a little bit of you in your life in your book there. Can we talk about Phan a little bit? He is an Amerasian child born of a black soldier and a Vietnamese mother. So he is essentially the dust child of the title. As an adult, he discovers a passion for music. And I know that's a big part of the Vietnamese culture. Can you talk a little bit about the significance of his music
Thank you.
in this story?
So Bạc Liêu, where Phong lives, is my hometown where I grew up. And Bạc Liêu is well known for vọng cổ music. Can you say vọng cổ?
Vọng cổ.
Vọng cổ.
Go.
Perfect, you sound Vietnamese. So vọng cổ is a traditional folk opera. So it started in Bạc Liêu by Cao Văn Lầu, who was separated from his wife because she couldn't give birth to a child. So the family were really upset and blamed on her and drove her out of the house, and he was miserable. And so he composed a song about her and the love between them. But I also composed a vọng cổ song for you. Would you like to hear? Yes. Okay. I'm very brave, right? Okay, so this is the song that I wrote for you, and I want to thank all the sponsors and volunteers and supporters of the One Book, One Lincoln program. I think this is an amazing program, and it brings the community together, and I'm really honored to be read and to be seen. Bạn đọc ơi, hôm nay các bạn đã về đây đoàn tụ. Nhìn những gương mặt thân quen, tôi như thấy mình mắc nợ ân tình. Từ thuở còn thơ tôi đã tự nhủ mình rằng một ngày tôi sẽ viết nên những câu chuyện về quê hương xứ sở. Trong đó có những người như bạn như tôi, họ cùng thênh thang thăm thầm những nụ cười, rồi rơi nước mắt trước tận cùng đau khổ. Bạn đọc ơi, suốt đời tôi mắc nợ những ân tình tôi mãi mãi khắc ghi. Oh, my readers, today you gather. Looking at your compassionate faces, I see light, and I see that I owe you oceans of debt. From my childhood, I wanted to write about my homeland, about people like you and me. Our lives can be filled with laughter, yet sorrow also brings us tears. Oh, my beloved readers, I owe you until the end of my life. Your compassion I carry with me always. Thank you so much.
You have such a joyful spirit. I think we can all see that. But there are some really, really dark themes in your book: trauma, discrimination, abandonment. How do you handle those as a writer? Do you have a writer's self-care routine? How do you take care of yourself when you're writing those hard things?
Oh, I think self-care is so important, right? I mean, look at the state of the world, It's easy for us to get depressed, but I see hope. I see hope in human kindness. I meet so many kind people. I meet so many kind people here in Lincoln. You are a city filled with kindness, so thank you. But I think I celebrate joy by, I take care by eating a lot of good food. I cook a lot, so if you read the book, you will, see how wonderful Vietnamese food is. But I have this. So how many of you here love bánh mì? bánh mì, yeah, Vietnamese sandwich, yeah. It's wonderful, and I have a paragraph in the book. When France invaded Vietnam, we took the bread and made it better.
I want to move back just a little bit to some of your, the structure of the book. I, and probably many people here, read, for the first time, I read the book as an audio book. And so I was able to hear all the inflections and the accents. But, as we know, the language in it is so important, and the diacritics, the little marks on each of the letters, is really important. And it's a different experience reading it with your eyes. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of those things and how it changes the language and changes the words?
Oh yeah, I need to say that the audiobook narrator is a wonderful, she translated my poetry before. Oh. And I did not know because my publisher selected her to narrate The Mountain Sing. And then I got in contact with her and she said, oh my goodness, I translated your poetry before. So the world is indeed, small, and she did such a, my one condition for choosing an audiobook narrator is that the person has to be fluent in Vietnamese, because I wanted this to be an authentic Vietnamese experience. And so her name is Nguye, and she's wonderful, and she did a great job that for my second book, I put her name in my publishing contract. I said, give priority to Nguye as a narrator. I wanted to make sure that she would continue to do it. But, she did a wonderful job, and I think the Vietnamese language is quite hard, and I want to compliment the mayor and Mr. Weber for saying my name perfectly like a Vietnamese, and because it's hard. So for example, a part of my name, can you say Quế? Wow, you sound so Vietnamese. Quế means cinnamon, an ingredient of the Vietnamese traditional medicine. So my parents named me a part of the traditional medicine, so I would always stay healthy. Very smart of them, right? So normally when Vietnamese authors get published overseas, our name is simplified, so we don't have the diacritics. And I told my publisher, I rather sell less books, but show respect to the Vietnamese culture. So please keep my name the original way, because if you change it, you are going to change the meaning of my name. So if you leave the diacritics away, so my name would become Que. Can you say Que? What does Que mean? Que means a stick. So from cinnamon, I would become a stick. So I told my publisher, please don't do that to me. So in The Mountain Sing. So The Mountain Sing is my first novel. It's a family saga, and I have a family tree in the front with all the names. And Nguye does a wonderful video with the meaning of all the names. So I'm going to teach you the meaning of a character's name. And if you don't pass the test later, you're not allowed to go home, okay? So pay attention. So this character's name is Tu. Perfect. Tu means refined beauty, which is a beautiful name, right? So if her name has no diacritic, she would become Tu. Can you say Tu? Tu means to become a monk. So from refined beauty, she would become a monk. But also, we have so many tonal marks. So this is one of those. So there's a dot, can be a dot under a vowel. Can you say Tu? Tu. 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 Tu means to gather. Yes. This one, it has a question mark. Tu. Tu. We are singing here. See? That's why it's easy to be a poet in Vietnamese because the language is very, rhythmic. Tủ means a cabinet. So from refined beauty, she could become a cabinet. Can you say this one? Tù. Tù. Tù is prison. Don't call her prison, please. This one has a kind of a mustache on top of the U. This is tư. Tư. Tư is number 4. These are all real words. I'm not making them up. This is tư. Tư. Tự means by oneself. You think this is over? No, not yet. Do you remember each word? I'm going to test you, okay? This is từ. Từ. Từ, to abandon. This is tứ. Tứ. Tứ is number 4. This is tử. Tử. Tử means to die. You see, the really small things changes the words. So I always say the dear critics are like roofs of our homes. They are so important.
Well, I have a structure question. Dust Child moves back and forth between 2 different time periods. We're in 1969 and all the way forward to 2016. Why did you choose that method as opposed to something more linear?
Oh, because I want to read suspenseful book. I'm very selfish, I want to enjoy my writing because I don't know what happens to the end of my books. When I reach the end, I'm like, what happened? Because I was screaming when I got to the end of Dust Child. I swear, I did not plan for it. Because I'm very selfish, I want to be surprised every day. So that's why I have multiple characters, I have multiple timelines, I leave hooks everywhere. So now I'm in suspense because I'm writing my 3rd novel and I'm in a phase I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm here speaking instead of writing, So I don't know what happens next. So I will know on the plane tomorrow when But I feel like as a writer, I want to surprise my readers. And unless I surprise myself, I won't surprise my readers. So that's why I have multiple timelines, multiple characters, and it's complicated. That's why it took 7 years to write the book. 7 years. And I mean, there were so many nights that I woke up at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. I heard the characters calling for me. They told me, get up and write. Our stories cannot sleep unless you tell them. These were the stories that called out to me. They chose me and they.
So you're working on, is it a 3rd novel?
Yes.
Is it more, okay. Is there anything you can share with us about it?
Oh.
Or is it a secret?
The 3rd novel is about independent booksellers. Yeah! They are my heroes. And in Vietnam especially, it's so difficult with censorship because do you know each book in Vietnam that can be published has to be licensed by a government-owned publisher. So The Sympathizer by Viet Thanh Nguyen that won the Pulitzer Prize, it has been translated but could not get a publishing license in Vietnam. So it cannot be published in Vietnam. So that's why when HBO made a TV series, it could not be filmed in Vietnam. So until today, it was filmed in Bangkok, in Thailand. So that's really sad. So, and also all the English books that can be sold openly in Vietnam have to be licensed by the Ministry of Culture. So the booksellers have to apply for import license.
So when we talk about a banned book here in the United States, we're usually saying that it's been published and it's been available, but someone has challenged it. But you're saying that the government doesn't even let it get to that point.
Yes.
So it's a different kind of banning.
And
Wow.
also, booksellers can get fined. If they sell books that are not licensed, they can get fined and imprisoned. You know,
Wow.
so it's you know, and this is not known. So I just wanted, you know, because I've been interviewing people, and it's like private book selling was not allowed after the war. So when I was growing up, there were only government bookstores that sold books that were printed by the government, that, you know, books that supported the government policies or propaganda. You know, so the only foreign books I could read at that time were books translated from Russia, because Russia was a communist, you know, country as well. So, you know, Vietnam is still one party political system, and we are a communist country. So there are still challenges there.
Well, maybe this is a lighter question about books here. What are you currently reading?
Oh,
What's on your bookshelf or your bedside table, or do you have recommendations?
I have been reading. You know, I read authors from around the world, and I just finished reading The House of Doors by Thanh Nguyen Anh. Anyone have read it here? Yes, Patty has read it. It was, I think, long-listed for the Booker Prize. And he's such a wonderful writer of historical fiction. He used to be a lawyer, but he quit his full-time job to become a writer. And his prose is so beautiful, and it's about, you know, history of Malaysia. Yeah, I'm just, you know, I just really enjoyed his books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have other recommendations? I know that we're always looking for recommendations for good reads. Do you have any for us, for our group?
Wow, so I always want to recommend Vietnamese books of Vietnamese authors.
Yes.
So you might want to check out The Sorrow of War by Bảo Ninh. This book is very significant because it was the first ever book from a northern Vietnamese soldier who documented trauma. Because in Vietnam, the official policy is that we won the war, there's no trauma. So, you know, when he wrote this, so the author wrote The Sorrow of War, and people said, oh, our war is glory, there's no sorrow. So the book was banned. So it was not allowed to be published in Vietnam. So it was translated and published overseas first. And when it was allowed to be published in Vietnam, do you know what the author had to do? He had to change the title from The Sorrow of War to The Fate of Love.
Oh.
And from Thân phận của tình yêu, from nỗi buồn chiến tranh, which is Sorrow of War, to Thân phận của tình yêu, The Fate of Love. And after many years now, he could use the original title. So, you know, I think Ocean Vuong is an author whom I really love. Viet Thanh Nguyen and Thi Bui, who wrote a graphic novel, The Best We Could Do. And I have been commissioned to translate it into Vietnamese. So I'm working on the translator as well, on the translation. And I just finished the Vietnamese translation of Dust Child.
Yes.
It will be published in Vietnam next month. We just got the publishing license, but for it to be released to the market, there is a censorship board. They have to read it. And it will take like 2 weeks for them to make the decision whether it can be released. So it's, you know, the process is very long and complicated.
I imagine you would also recommend your first novel, The Mountain Sing, maybe?
Of course! You know, I wrote The Mountain Sing because I wanted to have a grandmother. Both of my grandmothers had died before I was born. And I was really jealous of my friends who had grandmothers to tell them stories, to put them to sleep. So I often went to my friends' homes and I listened to their grandmothers. And I told myself, one day if I were to become a writer, I would write a story with a grandma in it. So I would have a grandmother.
Wonderful.
And this is what happens in the book. This is a family saga told in the voice of a grandmother and a granddaughter. And the grandmother tells the granddaughter what happens to her family during the Vietnam War, when the granddaughter was trying to survive the war's horror. She was told different stories about the family to have strength and have courage. So stories do save lives.
Yes. What would you like readers ultimately to take away from Dust Child? I know that you've talked about elevating and sharing the culture and the history of Vietnam. Give us
Thank you. Isn't Jen so wonderful?
Well, you make it very easy.
Thank you. I mean, I love to talk to bookish people because immediately I'm like friends, you know. For Dust Child, I mean, I don't know. I feel like a job of a journalist, of a novelist, is to plant a tree. The more research that we do, the richer the soil. And then with creative techniques, we make the branch and the trunk for the trees and the leaves. But you, the readers, by your time, you make the tree flowers and give fruits. So thanks to you. This book is flowering here in Lincoln, so thank you. So I hope each of you, I think each person will experience the book in a different way, but I hope you will see yourself in Vietnamese people as well. I think because we are more similar than we are different, right? Because we also love to eat, to sing and dance, and we love our families, and I hope that after reading the book, you will want to travel to Vietnam. So how many of you have been to Vietnam? Oh, wow, quite a few people. Yes, so actually, I will send the library a list of my recommendations if you travel to Vietnam, okay? So my favorite things to do. So if you decide to travel to Vietnam, it's really a lot of fun. And Vietnam is quite affordable and easy to travel. And now when you have read the book, you are prepared for the trip.
Well, thank you, Mai. I have so enjoyed having this conversation with you, and I think we may have a little time for some questions. So we've got staff members who have microphones to bring around. So if you've got a question, just raise your hand. I'll do my best to point them to you. All right, raise them. Don't be shy. Obviously she's really good at answering questions. Yeah.
So I'm curious, you currently live in Kyrgyzstan, is that right? What brought you there?
Thank you. So my husband works in development assistance. So that's why his job, takes him to poor or developing countries. So I mentioned that I worked in a library before in Bangladesh. So I was in Bangladesh. So I wrote the Dust Child. I started writing it when I was in Brussels, in Belgium, and then we moved to Indonesia, and I continued writing it there, and I finished it in Kyrgyzstan. Yeah. And I think this writing job saved me and saved our marriage. Because I had a career before, and then I was uprooted and planted in another country, and by writing, I grew my roots. And by writing, I could reach home. Whenever I felt homesick, I just wrote, and I write also in Vietnamese. And for example, I remember when I just moved to Kyrgyzstan, and it was the Vietnamese New Year, and I didn't have, any Vietnamese friend there. There was no good Vietnamese food to eat. So I was really homesick, so I was writing in Vietnamese. And I felt I was at home. Yeah, so but I think, it's wonderful that I'm able to be here because it feels like the world is small, thanks to literature.
Yes, thank you for asking how she ended up in Kyrgyzstan. That's always a strange thing. Yeah, we've got somebody in the back.
Hello, Miss Que Mai. I think I'm only the few Vietnamese here
Yep.
tonight. So I heard that you will say we will have the Vietnamese translation with their child in this month. And you know that Lincoln is a very beautiful city. So there's the many Vietnamese living here, a big community living here. So we're still waiting for your Dutch child with the Vietnamese language. So do you think it's available? We can order from here or you will send here. And we would like to see you one day when the Dutch child in the Vietnamese language so we can see you again.
I think we
Thank
just
you.
invited you back to Lincoln for the launch of the Vietnamese version.
Thuy, can you stand up again, please? All of you need to meet Thuy. She works for the Asian Community and Cultural Center, and she's one of the leaders of the Vietnamese community here, and she's been doing amazing job to support, the Vietnamese community here, and she has been like my sister. She took me for a tour around the city, and she took me to a Vietnamese party. Do you know there are fun Vietnamese parties here? So we were dancing cha-cha-cha and, live Vietnamese music and wonderful Vietnamese food. So if you want some fun, real Vietnamese fun, contact Thuy. Oh, and she also founded the Pink Ladies dancing group to kind of pass on the traditional dancing to the younger generation. So yesterday at the welcome party, they put on a wonderful performance for me. So thank you, Thuy. Yes, so I will personally bring copies of the Vietnamese translation of Das Chai to Lincoln.
Yes. We have a question back here in the middle.
Thank you.
Sir?
I need to find a reason to come back, right? I mean, can I ask you something? So when my third novel is finished, can I come back here for a book tour?
We have a question back here.
I was thinking of a very old Vietnamese poem called The Tale of Kieu, and the theme of that, a lovely woman who was forced into hardship and eventual prostitution, seems to me to resonate a little bit about some of the chapters in your book. And I just wondered if you'd comment on that, the tragedy of beauty and poverty and the eventual prostitution, which is what happened.
So he's asking about a specific poem.
Yes.
Are you familiar with
Thank
this
you so much. So John Barry, Mr. John Barry, right? Please, John is having a poetry reading on Monday next week at a bookstore. Please come and listen to his poetry. One of the highlights of my visit here was to visit John's home when I listened to him read his poetry about Vietnam. So John was there to help civilians, Vietnamese civilians. He handed compensations from the American government to families of victims who were killed in the war. Thank you so much, John, for being here and for the gift of your poetry. I was so moved to listen to John's poetry. John mentioned the Tale of Kieu. This is the most important literary work of Vietnam, penned by the great poet Nguyen Duy. Nguyễn Du, the great poet Nguyễn Du. So Truyện Kieu, or the Tale of Kieu, is a novel in verse. More than 3,000 verses. And when I interviewed people for the Mountain Sing, one person told me that when she was 12 years old when Hanoi was bombed, and she had to flee the city with her younger sister who was 6 years old. And to put her sister to sleep every night, she recited from memory the tale of Kiều. So this book is really learned by heart by so many Vietnamese people. And in that child, Trang, one of the sisters, memorizes Kiều, and she recites it to Dan, the American soldier, to try to save him from the horror of war. And Trang is also a poet because, I wanted to kind of give the humanity to Ba girls and show their complexity. And so she loves the tale of Kiều. And because Kiều sold herself to rescue her family in the book, The Tale of Kiều, so Trang wanted to be like Kiều as well. Yes, so I wanted to bring this story, The Tale of Kiều, into my book. That was my intention. So thank you for noticing that, John. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have other questions? Raise your hands high.
Oh, John, could you tell us your poetry reading? I want to invite all of you to his poetry reading, please.
Oh, it's Francie and Finch, and it's November 10th, and what time? 5:30. I don't know.
So John says that his poetry signing will be at Francie and Finch on November 10th, possibly at 5:30. 5:30.
5:30.
Yes.
I cried when I listened to John's poetry, so thank you.
So if you have been inspired by Dust Child and want more of this amazing culture and the traditions, head to Francie and Finch next week.
Any more
others?
questions?
Or are we ready to have books signed? Is that what we're ready for? I think they want you all to
But
themselves.
I need to read for you a poem.
Oh, okay.
Should I do that?
Yeah.
Oh, so you have a choice. I could do a test of your Vietnamese language, or I could read for you a poem. So my mom wants to send all of you her sincere thanks for your kind support. She can't believe that, her daughter's book has been selected for one book, one CD, one book.
One book, one Lincoln.
One book, one Lincoln.
It's been a long day.
Yes. Long day. So I hope I will remember this poem. So this poem is about my mom. Should I read it in English first or Vietnamese first? Vietnamese. So you all know Vietnamese, right? You can understand it. Okay. So, but I can't help but so. Can you say mẹ? Mẹ. Mẹ means mother. Another Vietnamese word, cơm. Cơm means rice. Okay, now you know Vietnamese. You're going to understand this poem. Gian bếp của mẹ. Qua đôi mắt tuổi thơ tôi nhìn mẹ tôi tất tả trong gian bếp được dựng lên bằng rơm và bùn quánh. Mẹ nhấc đũa lên quấy nắng vào nồi cơm đang sôi. Vạt áo mẹ đậm hương thơm của mùa gặt mới. Tay mẹ mớm rơm khô cho ngọn lửa đói bập bùng. Tôi muốn đến cạnh bên và giúp mẹ, nhưng đứa trẻ trong tôi kéo tôi chui vào góc bếp tối thẳm. Từ nơi đó, tôi nhìn gương mặt mẹ dậy vẻ đẹp cách bừng lên trong gian khổ và cách hát cho cơm sôi bằng đôi tay rám nắng của người. Ngày hôm đó, trong gian bếp của tuổi thơ tôi, sự hoàn hảo được sắp đặt bằng những chiếc nồi đen tuyền bồ hông và bởi chiếc lưng khom của mẹ mỏng manh trông chân sẽ biến mất nếu tôi khóc hay kêu lên. My mother's rise. Through the eyes of my childhood, I watched my mother, who labored in a kitchen built from straw and mud. She lifted a pair of chopsticks and twirled sunlight into a pot of boiling rice. The perfume of a new harvest soaked her worn shirt as she bent and fed rice straws to the hungry flames. I wanted to come and help, but the child in me pulled myself into a dark corner where I could watch my mother's face teach beauty how to glow in hardship and how to sing the rice to cook with her sun-baked hands. That day in our kitchen, I saw how perfection was arranged by soot-blackened pans and pots, and by the bent back of my mother, so thin she would disappear if I wept or cried out. Thank you so much. Do you know why I write novels? To trick my readers into reading my poetry. You don't know it, but I have a lot of my poetry in this book. Why it took 7 years? Because there were just some days I spent the whole day polishing 2 sentences. I hope you notice. So this has been so much fun. So thank you, Jen, for being so wonderful. Thank you. I want to thank all of you for spending the evening with me. Thank you so much. Thank you, the mayor, for being here and for your amazing speech. I was so moved. Thank you, Mr. Weber, for your kind words as well. Thank you to the Lincoln City Libraries for your kind support and One Book, One Lincoln committee whose members spend so many hours reading. Patty told me during the reading period she woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So thank you, readers. You saved the world. And I want to thank also the Lincoln City Library Foundation for your kind support, and to all of you, and to the booksellers who are like my heroes, to librarians, to readers, to champions of literature, and to this beautiful school who hosts our event today, and to the teams, the technicians there who have been working really hard, and they mic me up, you know. Oh, my mind is still working after a long day. And I woke up at 1 o'clock because of jet lag, but you give me the energy, so thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.